our area, too. They continue to rage in Southern California. Many of us are thinking, what do we do if this happens in our area? We've seen fires here before. Patrick Hardy, they call him Disaster Patrick, joins us now. You've been doing disaster planning for 20-plus years now. You see something like this. We also had the earthquake in San Francisco just a short while ago, 3.7 magnitude quake. We get those a lot here. Talk to us about preparing. It doesn't have to be as hard as everyone makes it out to be. There's just a few things that you can do. Why is this so important? I think the answer is obvious, but explain it.
What I tell people is I say, you want to maximize your options in whatever you're facing. Whether you're facing an earthquake in Daly City or a wildfire in Los Angeles, you want to make sure that if you're going to evacuate, you have maximized where you're going to be able to go and the routes to get there, and making sure you have everything you need in order to survive when you arrive there. So that's why it's so important.
Preparing for this before, I mean, people see this and you see a lot of the homes, you hear a lot of the sound bites out of Southern California. I don't even know where to go, what to do. You have a method, the 5-pocket method. What is that? Explain.
I do. It's a method I've been using with clients for a long time. And what I tell them is I said, it doesn't have to be complex. You don't have to grab everything out of your pantry. Right. What I want you to do is I want you to focus on 5 different pockets full of resources that you're going to need to get to the next evacuation location or the next shelter in place. So what I talk about is the physical side. So making sure you have the necessary food, water, masks. Right. Then I talk about the psychological side. And this is where it's really important, because we were talking about earlier about remaining really calm and collected.
Yes.
And what I tell people is to stay focused. Take something with you that will relax you. Okay. Disasters are going to be, you're going to be anxious.
Stressful. Yeah.
It's going to be stressful. And so you want to have something with you that's going to center you. Then personal side, so things like glasses, clothes, your keys. Medications. Okay. Absolutely. And then your phone. Your phone. You got to have your phone with you or some kind of communication device. And then the last one is your papers. And a lot of people forget about that. Right. And what I generally refer to that as like your ID. Yeah. So you want to have your driver's license. It could be expired. It could be an expired passport. Anything that identifies you as you, because that's what the government is going to need if you want to access resources if you're far from home.
And what's interesting about this 5-pocket method, it's a good way to go about it. You remember the 5 things, and you don't have to have them all packed up, ready to go, unless you know there's a fire in your area. Know where they are in your house, know how quickly to access them, and then once a month or every once in a while, make sure you know where they are and that they are in fact there.
Absolutely.
And that you know where all the charging cables are, you know where your important papers are, or your hard drives that have all that stuff on it. Make sure you can go. One of the interesting things we were talking about during the break, I've heard some people out in Southern California talking about they were prepared and they had that checklist. Mm-hmm. The difference in their personality when they were talking is so noticeable. It was like, okay, this is just Tuesday. We're going to do this. That's what we're talking about here.
That's ideal, because then that means what you've done is you've essentially taken command of it. So the situation isn't overwhelming you. So what you're seeing are people who are tremendously prepared. So they have maximized their options because they know no matter what the conditions are, because we know in Los Angeles, I actually grew up in Orange County. Okay. So I grew up with the Santa Ana winds. Right. I grew up in wildfires. The 1993 wildfire I remember distinctly. Yeah. And I remember all the hills being on fire. And my dad always said, we're going to have 2 routes out. So if one is blocked, there's always a backup. And he told me that. Always have a backup place to go, because otherwise you're letting the conditions dictate what you're doing.
And the important thing about that, when you're in that situation and to think about it beforehand, you automatically go to what you know. You've practiced this, you know it. If you don't, and you're trying to think of those 5 things, when it's emergency, your panic kicks in. You can't make great decisions. You might get out fine, you might not get out fine, you'll forget something, and as long as you're alive, that's fine. But you don't want to be in that panic situation. You want to be making cool, calm, collected decisions.
That's right. And if you are trying to do things at the last minute, that becomes incredibly difficult. So what I say to people is think about your 5 pockets in advance. But one of the critical things about the method is I said, you don't have to carry everything with you. You don't have to cover, 15 water bottles. Right. What you have to do is have just enough, because if you've decided you're going to evacuate to a hotel, make sure you have enough to get to the hotel. So, for example, right now...
First leg of it.
Right, exactly. So, like on me right now, I have enough to get to my car. My car has enough to get to a hotel. My hotel, I have enough to get to the next location.
That's great. Patrick Hardy, they call him Disaster Patrick. Thanks for helping us plan and making this a process where we can be cool, calm, and collected if it ever happens to us, and hopefully it doesn't.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Thanks, Patrick. All right, 747. Genevieve.